Monday, September 14, 2015, dawned bright and full of promise for 16-year-old Nolan Buchanan. The previous day had been one of joy and connection, a perfect Sunday spent with his girlfriend. They started the day attending a traditional morning mass with her family, a ritual that filled Nolan with a sense of peace and community. Following the service, they spent the afternoon with friends, laughing and enjoying each other's company. As the sun set, the couple shared a romantic evening, making memories that Nolan hoped would last a lifetime. Waking up on that Monday morning, Nolan felt a surge of optimism and excitement. He saw himself as a young, successful businessman, standing on the threshold of a new chapter in his life. The recent inheritance of Buchanan Construction from his late father had given him a sense of purpose and responsibility. Nolan was determined to honor his father's legacy while bringing fresh ideas and improvements to the family business. His mind buzzed with plans and strategies to revitalize the company, envisioning innovative projects and new opportunities that would elevate Buchanan Construction to new heights. As he got ready for the day, Nolan's thoughts were filled with dreams of a bright future. He imagined transforming the business, implementing modern management techniques, and expanding their reach. With youthful enthusiasm and a heart full of ambition, Nolan felt ready to take on the world. The promise of new beginnings and the support of his loved ones gave him the confidence that he could achieve anything he set his mind to. Little did he know, the events that would soon unfold would shatter his idyllic vision and change his life forever. However, just a few weeks later, on October 1, 2015, Nolan's dreams came crashing down. That day, at Bonita High School in Bonita, California, the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office arrested him. The sight of Nolan being taken away in handcuffs shocked everyone. Nolan, once a promising young man with a bright future, was now facing severe charges. He was detained at the Juvenile Treatment Center in South Lake Tahoe, where he awaited his trial. The gravity of the charges against Nolan was staggering. He was accused of crimes that left the community reeling. On June 13, 2018, after a brief 2-hour deliberation, the jury found him guilty on 3 counts. The courtroom was tense as the verdict was read, confirming Nolan's fate. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. This dramatic fall from grace left his neighbors and classmates in shock, struggling to reconcile the Nolan they knew with the heinous acts he was convicted of committing. The transformation from a hopeful teenager to a convicted criminal was both swift and tragic, leaving a lasting impact on everyone who knew him. Nolan's family life appeared idyllic to outsiders. His father, Adam Buchanan, owned Buchanan Construction, a company that provided a comfortable lifestyle for the family. Adam was a hard-working man, dedicated to his business and determined to offer his family the best. After his first marriage ended in divorce, Adam was left to raise Nolan on his own. This changed when he met Molly. Molly was a cheerful, sociable woman who joined Buchanan Construction as an office manager. She quickly caught Adam's eye, and their mutual interest blossomed into a serious relationship. Molly moved in with Adam, and they soon married. She dreamed of creating a loving, happy family, and put considerable effort into building a positive relationship with her stepson, Nolan. Not long after their marriage, Molly gave birth to Gavin, adding more joy to their home. The family often retreated to their vacation property in El Dorado County, a rustic cabin nestled on 19 acres of land. This cabin, though lacking modern conveniences like electricity and running water, became a cherished getaway. Adam, with his construction skills, actively remodeled the cabin, turning it into a cozy retreat. The Buchanans spent many weekends and holidays there, enjoying the peace and beauty of nature away from the hustle and bustle of their everyday lives. The cabin symbolized the Buchanan family's bond and shared moments of happiness. Friends and neighbors saw them as a close-knit, loving family. They often heard stories of their adventures and relaxing times spent at the cabin, reinforcing the image of an ideal family. Adam's successful business, their comfortable lifestyle, and the frequent family getaways to the rustic cabin painted a picture of harmony and contentment. However, behind this facade of happiness, there were underlying tensions and conflicts. These would eventually surface, revealing a much darker reality than anyone could have imagined. But for a time, at least, the Buchanan family appeared to be living the dream, enjoying the fruits of Adam's labor and the warmth of their family bonds. On September 13, 2015, a wildfire broke out in Greenwood Township, California. The flames swept through the area, engulfing and destroying the Buchanan family's rustic cabin. When firefighters arrived at the scene, they found the remains of the cabin still smoldering. At first, the firefighters thought that the fire might have claimed the life of a trapped pet, as charred remains were found in the ashes. However, as they began to inspect the scene more closely, a more tragic reality emerged. Amid the rubble and ashes, the coroner discovered a human skull and other human remains. This gruesome find suggested that the fire had taken more than just property. The initial assumption of an accidental wildfire causing the death of a pet quickly gave way to a more serious investigation. The authorities called in backup from the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office to examine the scene in detail. As they sifted through the debris, it became evident that this was not just a tragic accident but potentially a crime scene. The human remains found in the ruins indicated that the fire might have been a cover-up for something far more sinister. Detectives quickly identified the charred remains as those of 2 adults and a child. A skull with a bullet hole indicated foul play, shifting the investigation from a tragic accident to a homicide. The primary question became, who could have committed such a heinous act? Suspicion soon fell on Nolan Buchanan. Initially, Nolan claimed his father, stepmother, and younger brother had gone to the cabin without him, leaving him to look after the house. However, as investigators delved deeper, they began to find evidence that contradicted his story. Surveillance footage showed the family's truck, a Ford F-150, traveling back and forth from the cabin, not the Dodge truck Nolan had mentioned. Forensic evidence also began to unravel Nolan's narrative. Nolan's fingerprints were found on a rifle discovered near the crime scene, raising serious questions about his involvement. Financial records added another layer of suspicion. Transactions made with Adam Buchanan's credit card during the weekend of the murders indicated Nolan's presence at locations far from where he claimed to be. Further scrutiny revealed more inconsistencies in Nolan's account of his whereabouts. Interviews with his girlfriend and friends didn't align with the timeline he provided. As the evidence mounted, it became increasingly clear that Nolan's story didn't add up, leading investigators to focus their attention on him as a prime suspect in the tragic events at the Buchanan cabin. During the trial, Nolan maintained his innocence, alleging self-defense against his abusive father. However, forensic evidence and the sequence of events presented by the prosecution undermined his claims. On July 13, 2018, Nolan was found guilty of first-degree murder for the deaths of his father, stepmother, and brother. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. During the trial, Nolan Buchanan maintained his innocence, claiming that he had acted in self-defense against his abusive father. According to Nolan, his father, Adam, had been violent towards him, and on the night of the murders, a confrontation had escalated into a deadly struggle. Nolan insisted that his father had shot the family members and then turned the gun on him, forcing Nolan to defend himself. However, the prosecution presented a different narrative, one supported by compelling forensic evidence and a meticulously constructed timeline of events. Investigators had discovered Nolan's fingerprints on the rifle found near the crime scene. Additionally, surveillance footage and financial records contradicted Nolan's account of his whereabouts during the weekend of the murders. Security cameras captured Nolan using his father's credit card and driving the family's Ford F-150, directly linking him to the scene. The forensic evidence was damning. The angles of the bullet wounds suggested that the victims had been shot by someone standing over them, which did not support Nolan's claim of a chaotic struggle. Furthermore, the lack of defensive wounds on Nolan indicated that he had not been engaged in a life-and-death fight as he described. The prosecution argued that Nolan had premeditated the murders, aiming to take over the family business and escape the abuse he allegedly endured. On July 13, 2018, after a thorough and emotional trial, the jury found Nolan Buchanan guilty of first-degree murder for the deaths of his father, stepmother, and younger brother. The judge sentenced Nolan to 150 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. As the sentence was handed down, the courtroom was filled with a mix of relief and sorrow, marking the end of a tragic chapter for the Buchanan family. The case of Nolan Buchanan is a tragic and cautionary tale. It raises questions about the pressures faced by young individuals and the dark undercurrents that can exist beneath the surface of seemingly normal family lives. As Nolan serves his sentence, he maintains his innocence, holding on to the hope that one day he might be free. His story serves as a reminder of how quickly dreams can turn into nightmares and the profound impact of family dynamics on young lives.
As the world began to recover from the devastating effects of the 2020 pandemic and a sense of normalcy started to return in 2022, the last thing any family needed was another tragedy. Yet, on September 4, 2022, an Irish family experienced an unimaginable loss. 3 children were taken from them by someone they considered a brother. Our love and respect go out to all those who knew and loved Christy and Chelsea Coley, Lisa Cash, and all those affected by this tragic case. On the night of September 3, 2022, 26-year-old Andy Cash attended a family event dressed in jeans and a blue shirt. The occasion marked the first anniversary of a close relative's passing, and the family had gathered for a small memorial. As the evening progressed with soft music playing in the background, Cash began dancing alone, nursing a drink. His relatives continued socializing, seemingly uncomfortable with his behavior, as captured by camera footage. At some point, Cash joined his family, but the interaction didn't go well. Feeling annoyed or triggered by something, he stormed out of the gathering. No one followed him, possibly relieved he was gone or not anticipating the horror that would follow. Outside, Cash flagged down a taxi and gave the driver an address for Rossfield Avenue, Tala, in southwest Dublin. It was early morning on September 4th when he arrived at his destination. Rather than paying the fare, Cash stumbled into the house, where he found his 18-year-old sister, Lisa Cash, watching TV in the living room. He likely asked her for money to pay the taxi fare, leading to a heated argument. In a nearby bedroom, their 14-year-old brother was awakened by the commotion. The 8-year-old brother, Christy, remained asleep. The 14-year-old heard Lisa tell Andy she didn't have any money for him and that he shouldn't be in the house. In response, Andy went to the kitchen and fetched the largest knife he could find. The 14-year-old, who had been quietly observing, saw Andy attack Lisa with the knife. She screamed and tried to defend herself, running for the stairwell, but Andy continued stabbing and slashing until she lay bloodied at the foot of the stairs. The 14-year-old, witnessing this horror, darted back into the bedroom to wake Christy and escaped before Andy reached them. However, before they could leave, Andy entered the room, knife in hand. The terrified 14-year-old escaped through a window, landing on the ground floor and running to get help. A neighbor found him, panic-stricken and underdressed, adding to the chaos and confusion on the suburban street. The Gardaí, Irish police, were alerted to a violent incident at the house around 12:30 a.m. They arrived to a horrific scene with multiple casualties and an active suspect. The taxi driver, still waiting by the curb, had heard a scream but couldn't identify its source. However, he called 999 after a bloodied Andy Cash emerged from the house and ordered him to do so before returning inside. Inside, Andy had already moved on to Christy and then to Chelsea, Christy's twin, who was likely still in bed when attacked. The Emergency Response Unit, ERU, was the first to arrive. They found Cash upstairs, erratic and aggressive, preventing them from entering immediately. The situation escalated when Cash started throwing objects, including a TV, out of the window and dangled Christy's lifeless body before dropping it in front of the ERU. The Gardaí hurried to breach the house, but Cash repelled their entrance. Eventually, members of the ERU forced their way in, subdued Cash with non-lethal weapons, and began searching the house. They found Lisa by the stairs, barely alive, and Chelsea, who was already dead. Despite prompt medical intervention, Lisa soon succumbed to her injuries, becoming the third casualty of her brother's rampage. All three victims had suffered multiple stab and slash wounds, particularly around their torsos, faces, and necks. Lisa sustained 71 injuries, Christy 107, and Chelsea 65. The 14-year-old brother was the only sibling to escape relatively unharmed physically. The inner workings of a person's mind often reveal themselves outwardly, sometimes beyond the facade they try to maintain. This seemed to be the case with Andy Cash. Though it was unforeseeable that he would commit such heinous acts, especially against his own family, aspects of his life uncovered by authorities suggested that Cash might have been struggling with mental health issues. One early indication was his behavior at the family event, dancing alone in a room full of people he called family. While this might have been coincidental, details of his social life painted Cash as a paranoid loner, starkly contrasting with the image of a loving older brother he presented publicly. Records from Cash's Facebook account showed his supposed affection for his siblings. He posted about them often, sharing photos and heartfelt messages that professed his love for them. For example, on March 11, 2017, he shared a photo with young Lisa on her communion day, captioning it with love and birthday wishes. Other posts included pictures of the twins, Christy and Chelsea, with captions like "My whole life" and "My world." These outward professions of love stood in stark contrast to the brutal murderer who killed his sister and two young siblings. A deeper investigation into Cash's past revealed a troubled individual. He had been questioned by the Gardaí in connection with stolen items at a homeless shelter where he had stayed. Although no charges were filed, this incident provided insight into his unstable living situation and possibly strained family relationships. Moreover, voice messages found by Sunday World suggested that Cash was under the illusion that his Facebook account had been hacked, revealing his paranoia. His social life further reflected his isolation. Despite frequenting gay bars in Dublin city centre, such as Street 66, Pantabar, and The George, he was often alone. He would sit at the bar by himself, sometimes rambling and talking to himself, which hinted at his deteriorating mental state. One regular at these bars described Cash as generally a loner, occasionally accompanied by an odd friend or two, but mostly alone. He was a smoker and paranoid about contracting the virus during the lockdown. This isolation, coupled with his paranoia and drinking habits, painted a picture of a ticking time bomb. The attack also left the 14-year-old brother injured, and their mother was hospitalized, though her wounds were not physical. The entire community was left in shock and mourning. The children's mother, Margaret, and their surviving siblings released a heartbreaking victim impact statement before Cash's sentencing. They described their pain as indescribable, living with the loss of three innocent, beautiful, kind, and loving children every second of every day. They spoke of the unbearable emptiness left by their absence, missing their voices, laughs, conversations, and the simple joys of being together as a family. The loss was not just about what was taken from them, but also about what the children had missed out on: finishing school, learning to drive, seeing the world, and having families of their own. They cherished every memory of Lisa, Christy, and Chelsea, who deserved so much more from life. Despite the scale of the tragedy, the full details were only revealed to the public during Cash's sentencing hearing. Cash pleaded guilty to all three charges of murder. His attorney, Brendan Grehan SC, stated that Cash had been under the assessment of a psychologist and two psychiatrists since his arrest in September 2022. Grehan added that Cash wanted to apologize and expressed remorse for his actions and the pain he had caused. The presiding judge, Mr. Justice Paul McDermott, called the evidence deeply traumatizing and emphasized the devastating loss of three young lives. He imposed the mandatory life sentences for each count of murder, set to run concurrently. In his concluding remarks, the judge expressed his heartfelt condolences to the family, acknowledging their acute loss in the most appalling circumstances. This tragic case raises questions about whether anything could have been done to prevent such a horrific event. Understanding and addressing mental health issues, especially within families, is crucial. Early intervention and support might have made a difference in Cash's life and potentially prevented this tragedy. It highlights the importance of mental health awareness and the need for better resources and support systems for individuals struggling with mental health issues and their families. The murder of Lisa, Christy, and Chelsea Coley by their brother Andy Cash is a devastating reminder of the fragility of life and the profound impact of mental health issues. As we reflect on this tragedy, let us honor the memories of these young lives and strive to create a society where mental health support is accessible and tragedies like this can be prevented.
In 1995, Kansas enacted a crucial law to prevent criminals from using mental disorders as excuses for planning crimes. This law aimed to address a common tactic where offenders try to evade responsibility by blaming their actions on mental health problems. The heartbreaking story of the Kaler family vividly highlights the impact of this legislation on real lives. It underscores the intricate connections between legal frameworks and psychological explanations in understanding how tragedies unfold. The Kaler case serves as a poignant example of the complexities involved when examining the role of mental health in criminal behavior within the justice system. James Craig Kaler and Karen Kaler, born Karen White, looked like they were living the perfect American life, happily married, with kids, and a bright future ahead. They lived in Weatherford, Texas, where Craig worked as an engineer and Karen took care of their home. Their children, Emily, Lauren, and Sean, made their family seem ideal. But behind this happy image were hidden problems that nobody knew about. Underneath the happy exterior, Karen faced challenges with Craig's growing need to control everything. He watched every penny she spent and demanded to know her plans every day. Karen tried to meet his demands, but Craig's grip only tightened, making her feel like she had no say in her own life. She felt suffocated and unable to make decisions for herself. Finding solace in fitness, Karen started going to the gym regularly, where she eventually became a fitness instructor. This new job gave her a sense of control and financial freedom, allowing her to support herself independently. During this time, Karen formed an unexpected romantic bond with Sonny Rice, who was also working at the fitness club. Their relationship blossomed quietly amid the routine of gym sessions and fitness classes. For Karen, it was a welcome escape from the constraints of her troubled marriage and a source of emotional support during a challenging time in her life. Upon discovering Karen's affair, Craig responded with an unusual proposal. He suggested becoming involved in Karen and Sonny's relationship, believing it could somehow revive their own marriage. However, instead of bringing them closer together, Craig's insistence on controlling the situation only drove them further apart. His attempt to assert dominance over Karen's personal life backfired, causing irreparable damage to their marriage. This misguided effort intensified the already strained dynamics within the family, ultimately leading to tragic consequences. In a last-ditch effort to save his family, Craig made the decision to relocate them to Missouri. However, despite the move, Karen's connection with Sonny persisted in secret, further deepening the existing divide within their already troubled family. The relocation did not resolve the underlying issues between Craig and Karen. Instead, it amplified the tensions and unresolved conflicts. This move marked a pivotal moment in their story, as it highlighted the inability to mend the broken bonds and the continued turmoil within their lives. The breaking point came unexpectedly during a Thanksgiving visit to Karen's grandmother in Kansas. It was supposed to be a time of family gathering and gratitude, but instead, it turned into a nightmare. Craig, in a fit of rage and armed with a weapon, unleashed an unthinkable wave of violence. His actions tragically ended the lives of Karen, Emily, and Lauren, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable devastation. Sean, their youngest child, bore witness to this harrowing event, experiencing firsthand the horror that unfolded before his innocent eyes. The once promising future of the Kaler family was instantly shattered, leaving the community stunned, grieving, and struggling to comprehend the magnitude of such senseless loss. The shocking incident became the climax of the family's long-standing struggles, exposing the hidden turmoil that had been brewing beneath the surface for years. It shattered any lingering illusions of happiness and stability, laying bare the grim consequences of unchecked emotions and unresolved conflicts within a family. The aftermath of this tragedy rippled through the community and beyond, serving as a stark reminder of how quickly life can turn from joy to despair. It left a scar on the hearts of those who knew the Kalers, prompting reflection on the fragility of human relationships and the devastating impact of unchecked anger and violence. Following his arrest, Craig's trial became a grim spectacle that highlighted the calculated nature of his violence rather than any mental instability. The defense's efforts to portray Craig's actions as driven by mental illness were meticulously dismantled by the prosecution. Through a series of damning testimonies and compelling evidence, it became clear that Craig's actions were deliberate and premeditated. The courtroom was a somber setting, filled with members of the community who had been deeply affected by the tragedy. As the trial progressed, the devastating impact of Craig's actions was laid bare, not only illustrating the brutal end of his family, but also the shock and grief that rippled through the community. Witnesses recounted the horrors of that Thanksgiving visit, painting a vivid picture of the terror and loss endured by those who loved Karen, Emily, and Lauren. Ultimately, the jury found Craig guilty on multiple counts of murder. His sentencing to death was a stark conclusion to a legal process that had exposed the true extent of his crimes. The verdict was more than just a legal formality. It was a powerful statement of societal condemnation for his heinous deeds. This trial and its outcome served as a somber reminder of the profound loss experienced by the victims' families and the community at large. The sentencing was a crucial step in seeking justice for Karen, Emily, and Lauren, and it underscored the devastating consequences of unchecked anger and control. The community's collective mourning and the trial's resolution emphasized the need for vigilance against such destructive behaviors, ensuring that the memory of the victims would not be forgotten and that their loss would continue to resonate as a warning to all. Sean, now the only surviving member of the Kaler family, has found strength and solace in the loving care of his maternal relatives. This heart-wrenching saga serves as a stark warning of the devastating consequences that arise from unchecked jealousy and controlling behavior. The loss of his mother and sisters has left an indelible mark on Sean's life, a void that he carries with him every day. Living with his maternal relatives, Sean has been enveloped in a supportive and nurturing environment, which has been crucial for his healing process. The tragic story of the Kaler family stands as a poignant reminder of the fragility of family bonds and the profound impact of unresolved conflicts. The community that once saw the Kalers as the embodiment of the American dream now grapples with the aftermath of this harrowing event, reflecting on the warning signs that were missed or ignored. Despite the passage of time, the pain and sorrow of their loss remain a significant part of Sean's journey towards healing and resilience. Each day is a step towards rebuilding his life, but the memories of his mother and sisters continue to influence him deeply. Their absence is a constant reminder of the love and support he lost, but also of the strength he must summon to move forward. Sean's story is a testament to the enduring human spirit and the capacity to find hope and strength even in the darkest of times. His resilience, supported by his maternal family, highlights the importance of a strong support system in overcoming trauma. The Kaler family tragedy, while devastating, serves as a critical lesson on the impacts of jealousy, control, and the importance of addressing underlying issues before they escalate into unimaginable violence. In telling Sean's story, we are reminded of the essential nature of love, support, and understanding within families and communities. His journey towards healing is ongoing, marked by the scars of his past, but driven by a resolve to build a future that honors the memory of his lost loved ones. The Kaler family's story remains a powerful narrative about the complexities of human relationships and the dire need for compassion and intervention in the face of destructive behavior. The Kaler family case serves as a powerful reminder of how a seemingly happy family can be torn apart by uncontrollable possessiveness, leading to unimaginable tragedy. Their story highlights the dangers of jealousy and unchecked control within relationships, showing the profound impact on both individuals and their families. It stands as a cautionary tale, urging society to recognize and address the warning signs of such destructive behavior before it escalates into irreparable harm. The Kalers were once viewed as the ideal American family, living a life that appeared perfect on the surface. However, beneath this facade, issues of control and possessiveness festered, eventually leading to a catastrophic breakdown. This case emphasizes how vital it is to foster open communication and seek help when warning signs appear. Often these signs are subtle at first, manifesting as excessive monitoring or controlling behavior, but they can escalate quickly if left unaddressed. The devastating consequences of these actions reverberate through communities, leaving scars that may never fully heal. The Kalers' tragic end serves as a somber reminder that behind closed doors, many families may struggle with similar issues. It is a call to action for friends, family, and community members to be vigilant and supportive, providing help and resources to those who may be in distress. The story of the Kaler family underscores the importance of fostering healthy, respectful relationships built on trust and mutual support. It is a poignant example of how unchecked negative emotions can destroy lives and devastate families. By promoting awareness and understanding, society can help prevent such tragedies and ensure that families have the tools and support they need to thrive. Ultimately, the Kalers' heartbreaking journey is a lesson in the critical need for intervention and support in the face of controlling and jealous behavior. It challenges us to look beyond appearances and address the underlying issues that can lead to such devastating outcomes. By learning from their story, we can work towards creating a society where every individual feels safe, respected, and valued in their relationships.
Our story today is about Lamu, a popular Chinese blogger whose tragic end a few years ago shocked all of China. Lamu, born in a humble village in Sichuan province, was a simple girl from a poor family. She captivated a large audience with her genuine kindness, heartfelt sincerity, and deep love for nature. Her warm, unfiltered videos, showcasing her daily life and the natural beauty of her surroundings, resonated with many. However, behind the scenes, Lamu's life was far from idyllic. She met a horrific end at the hands of her once-loved partner, Tom Lee. The most chilling part of this incident is that the brutal assault on her was broadcast live on social media, and thousands of her followers could only watch helplessly as the tragedy unfolded. Lamu was born in 1990 in Nyawa, a Tibetan and Chang Autonomous Prefecture in Sichuan Province, China. She was the youngest of 3 children in a very poor family. Growing up with her older sister and stepbrother, she helped her family collect rare medicinal plants, which they sold in local pharmacies for a meager income. After completing only 3 grades, Lamu had to leave school to work with her family, climbing high into the mountains to find rare herbs and flowers. Lamu loved nature deeply, admiring its beauty and drawing strength and inspiration from the mountains. The rugged landscape, with its rich flora, became her playground and classroom. As social media became popular, she saw an opportunity to share her love for nature with a wider audience. She created an account on a Chinese equivalent of TikTok, where she posted short videos showcasing her daily life, household activities, and the beauty of her native province. Her audience adored her for her smile, purity, and almost childlike spontaneity. Unlike many online personalities, Lamu never used makeup or filters. Her videos were raw and authentic, showing her as she was, a hardworking woman with calloused hands and feet, marked by the evidence of her labor. This authenticity endeared her to many, as people found her genuine and relatable. Her content was a breath of fresh air, offering a glimpse into a simple yet fulfilling life connected to nature. Lamo's subscriber count grew steadily as more people discovered her channel. She wasn't just gaining local followers, tourists and people from different parts of the country began to recognize her. They often referred to her affectionately as that sweet mountain girl. Her audience loved her warm personality and the genuine passion she had for nature. Lamo was delighted that her videos resonated with so many people and brought joy to their lives. She continued to showcase the rich flora of her local area, taking her viewers on virtual journeys through the mountains. She would explain the properties of specific flowers and herbs, demonstrating how to collect them and use them safely. Her detailed and educational content made her a beloved figure among her followers, who appreciated not just her knowledge but also her sincerity and connection to the natural world. As her fame grew, so did the admiration and gratitude from her ever-expanding audience. Despite her public happiness, Lamo endured years of suffering at the hands of her abusive husband, Tang Lu. She avoided discussing her personal life but suffered beatings and humiliations. Lamo's private life was starkly different from the cheerful persona she displayed online. Born in 1990, Tang Lu grew up in Sichuan province in a modest family. His parents spoiled him, and he showed signs of greed and narcissism from an early age. He quit school at 12 and started working as a courier, keeping all the money for himself. Tang fell into criminal activities and aimed to earn respect and wealth in the criminal underworld. Tang's manipulative and violent behavior soon became evident in his marriage to Lamo. She bore the brunt of his frustrations and anger, enduring physical and emotional abuse. The vibrant and joyful facade she presented to her followers hid the pain and fear she experienced at home. Lamo's reluctance to share her struggles was partly due to her cultural background, where discussing personal issues, especially marital problems, is often frowned upon. Despite her efforts to keep her suffering hidden, the signs of her distress occasionally surfaced in her videos, where astute viewers noticed the sadness behind her eyes and the unspoken pain in her expressions. Her family and close friends were aware of the abusive relationship but felt helpless, as Lamo continued to endure the violence silently. The contrast between her public and private life was a tragic testament to her strength and resilience, as she continued to bring joy to others while grappling with her own suffering. Lamo and Tang met when they were both just 17. Tang was enchanted by her beauty and kindness. He courted her earnestly, showering her with attention and affection. Lamo, believing she had met her Prince Charming, quickly fell for his charms. Their love story blossomed, and despite concerns from their parents, they married in 2009. Initially, married life seemed blissful. Lamo believed she had found true happiness with Tang. However, this happiness was short-lived. Tang soon returned to his unlawful activities and alcohol, which transformed his behavior. The man who once seemed so loving and kind became crude and aggressive. The fairy tale romance that Lamo had envisioned quickly turned into a nightmare. Tang's involvement in crime and his addiction to alcohol brought out a violent side that Lamo had never seen before. The love and warmth he once showed were replaced with anger and brutality. Lamo's dream of a happy marriage was shattered, and she found herself trapped in a life filled with fear and pain. Conflicts in their home became a daily occurrence, making life increasingly difficult for Lamo. Even when Lamo became pregnant, Tang did not change his abusive behavior. He continued to treat her cruelly, showing no concern for her or the unborn child. When their son was born, instead of bringing joy and unity, Tang used the baby as a tool for manipulation and blackmail. He threatened to take the child away if Lamo ever thought of leaving him, trapping her in the toxic relationship. Lamo endured this nightmare silently, keeping her suffering to herself. In 2012, her struggles intensified when her mother passed away. This loss was a heavy blow, adding to her already overwhelming responsibilities. Despite the grief and the increasing burden, Lamo continued to climb the mountains to collect herbs. Her work became her only solace, a way to momentarily escape the harsh reality of her home life. She found a sense of peace in nature, drawing strength from the beauty around her. The mountains, with their tranquil landscapes and fresh air, became a refuge for Lamu. She persisted, not just for her own survival, but for her child and the memory of her mother. Through her dedication and resilience, Lamu continued to support both families, showing remarkable strength in the face of relentless hardship. In January 2020, Lamu faced yet another harrowing episode of abuse and made the courageous decision to leave her husband. Taking her sons with her, she returned to her parents' home and initiated divorce proceedings. The court awarded custody of their children, with the elder son remaining with his father. Despite this separation, Tong soon adopted a new strategy, feigning remorse and convincing Lamu to reconcile and remarry him. Initially hopeful for a fresh start, Lamu believed in Tong's promises of change. However, this renewed union soon shattered as Tong's abusive tendencies resurfaced. The cycle of mistreatment and manipulation resumed, leaving Lamu devastated and disillusioned. On the fateful evening of September 14, 2020, Lamu engaged in a live stream to connect with her loyal followers. Little did anyone anticipate the horror that would unfold. In a sudden and terrifying turn of events, Tong stormed into the room where Lamu was broadcasting. With shocking brutality, he drenched her in gasoline and set her ablaze before the eyes of her unsuspecting audience. The live broadcast captured the unimaginable act, plunging viewers into a state of shock and disbelief. Lamu's father and stepbrother rushed to her aid, desperate to extinguish the flames and rescue her from the engulfing fire. Tragically, their heroic efforts were hindered by the old, wooden structure of the house, which collapsed under the intense heat, trapping Lamu inside. The harrowing incident marked a devastating end to Lamu's life, sending shockwaves across China and beyond, as the senseless violence was witnessed by thousands who could only watch in horror and helplessness. After 2 harrowing hours, firefighters managed to quell the raging inferno that engulfed Lamu's home. Amidst the charred debris, they discovered Lamu barely clinging to life. With over 90% of her body consumed by flames, her survival seemed nothing short of miraculous. Urgently, she was whisked away to the hospital, where a desperate struggle to save her began. News of Lamu's tragic plight spread swiftly among her devoted followers, who rallied together in a remarkable display of solidarity. Within just 1 hour, they mobilized enough funds to cover her extensive medical expenses. Despite the overwhelming support, Lamu's condition remained critical. For 2 agonizing weeks, doctors and loved ones alike fought tirelessly by her side, hoping against hope for a miraculous recovery. Yet, tragically, Lamu succumbed to her grievous injuries without ever regaining consciousness. Her untimely death marked the heartbreaking conclusion to a life that had touched so many, leaving behind a legacy of resilience, courage, and the enduring power of community support. The swift hand of justice moved to action following the horrific attack on Lamu. Within a day, Tong was apprehended by law enforcement officials. During the trial, Tong's mother offered a staunch defense of her son, pleading for leniency. However, the court deliberated firmly, finding Tong guilty of intentionally snuffing out Lamu's life in a brutal manner. The judge's ruling was severe and decisive. Tong was condemned to death for his heinous crime. In July of 2022, the sentence was carried out, marking the culmination of a legal process fraught with grief and anguish for Lamu's loved ones and supporters alike. In the aftermath of Lamu's tragic death, her family found strength in rebuilding their shattered home. Despite the sorrow, her sons faced an uncertain future under the care of their paternal grandparents, navigating life without the loving presence of their mother. Her tragic demise serves as a poignant lesson, highlighting the grim consequences of domestic violence and the urgent need for support and intervention. Lamu's story compels us to reflect on the fragility of life and the resilience of the human spirit.